I love X-Men 97! X-Men 97 is one of my favorite shows, maybe ever. It's certainly one of my favorite animated shows, and while I could spend some time really breaking down and analyzing each episode, there are plenty of other incredible comic book YouTubers who have already done that. So instead, I'm just going to go through and list all of my favorite things that I love about these first 4 episodes. Episode 1, Days of Past Future. I like the decision to pick up with Cable/Nathan. I think it's a very smart choice given where we left him at the end of last season, and how these first 2 episodes focus a lot on him and his character growth. The opening always hits me like a train. It's amazing. Specifically in this episode, the shot of Magneto ripping the adamantium out of Wolverine's skeleton is done so well. Such a cool shot. I love Scott's continued guilt over sending Nathan to the future and how he is kind of always dealing with that. Scott and Jean's Bonnie and Clyde dynamic is awesome. I love the fact that they basically decide to kidnap their own child and run away. I just love how messy it is. I love messy X-Men. On the topic of Cyclops, Ray Chase's Cyclops voice is like butter to my ears. I melt anytime he says anything. It is perfect. Scotty has me super excited for further Rachel Summers storylines. Particularly, I would love to get an Excalibur episode someday. I love that Storm gets probably her biggest display of power in this first episode after struggling with her humanity and power last season. It's a great moment for her. While Scott and Jean don't think that Nathan knows they're his parents, I love that you can tell he did catch on and he clearly knows that they're his parents and he's been struggling with that. And lastly, the fiery effects of Ascani's power are done so well. It looks so cool. I'm, again, super excited to see more of her. Episode 2, A Force to be Reckoned With. I think I have the most notes for this episode because this is probably my favorite so far. God, I love how much of a moody asshole Kid Omega is already. I hope we get more of him. I might be the one Kid Omega fan. I just love him being such a little emo punk prick. It's great. I love the looks on the onlookers' faces as X-Force is detaining mutants. You can tell there's a big variety of responses to it. Jubilee not wanting to play arcade games is such a great show of her character growth and where she's at in her life right now. It's amazing. The huge-ass Cable in the booth is fantastic. Everything with him in that restaurant is great. Him fucking towering over both of them in his hat and coat and just drinking his little milkshake. Amazing. The X-Force intro rips. This is so cool. I hope that they do it for other teams. Again, Excalibur someday. I love the way they work over the radio. Their teamwork and just teamwork in general is a big part of this episode. Also, how the fuck did Psylocke break that car? What are they feeding her? Roberto and Jubilee's team up is awesome. This combo move they do. Maybe Sunspot will get in Marvel Rivals someday. We finally have a proper Psylocke. Not that Olivia Munn was bad, but the way they show off her powers is so great in this episode. One thing I'm wondering is, why does Cable make Warren kill War? Why doesn't Cable just shoot him? I love Jubilee's conviction in this episode. This episode does a great job at solidifying who Jubilee is as a character, and particularly how far she is willing to go to stick to her beliefs. This really is like an X-Force, X-Factor, and Gen X episode all rolled into one, which is great. For me especially, because I love Gen X, but the other 2 teams are also amazing in this episode. I love that we're starting Emma at this flawed state. I've seen people complain that she's not at this point she is right now in the comics, but it would really be a disservice to her character and her character arc to have her start as just a good guy. Having her be this more dubious person is great. I love that Wolfsbane in the X-Factor fight does absolutely nothing but run on the walls. She's just running around and she never hits anybody. That's so funny to me, and I feel like it had to have been done intentionally. I hope we get an X-Factor investigation someday. I think that would be really cool if the X-Factor kind of reforms, maybe not this season, but somewhere down the line, and ends up deciding to be an investigation team. I love the difference in the way that X-Factor and X-Force work together, specifically the trust, the difference in trust. Cable really does trust his team, whereas the X-Factor don't really trust each other, it seems like. Especially, Havoc doesn't trust Lorna. Lorna doesn't seem to trust anybody else. Val doesn't trust anybody. That is such a great way of showing what makes X-Force so special right now. I love the line that she can handle herself, but Roberto says just because she can doesn't mean she should have to. It is very close to my own worldview, and I love seeing that represented. The Volcano Girls scene in this episode might be my favorite scene from any Marvel media ever. There are MCU movies I think are better than X-Men 97, but oh my god, that scene is just made for me in a factory. I love it so much. All of these creative uses of Jubilee's powers, the way that they use powers in general in the show is so creative, and I love getting her to finally just be the bomb that she is. Like, I really want to see Jubilee as a leader someday, hopefully as the leader of Gen X. Maybe she'll be a leader of an X-Men team, but I really do think that that's where she's headed. And I love Cable's line to end this episode, that kids are tougher than you think. It really is true, and I love how his experience is still bleeding into his current day life. Episode 3, Rise of Apocalypse Part 1. This episode is so funny. Magneto trying to fix Ensaba Noor is such an insane but amazing creative choice. The gay bickering that everybody is doing in this episode is amazing. Charles just not having any of Magneto's shit is incredible. I live for it. Nur did not need to throw that elephant, but great technique. It really does look like he's doing a shot put with an elephant. Magneto being the good influence is kind of crazy, but it really does show how far he's come from last season. Our X-Men? What do you mean, our X-Men? There's something so natural about Beast getting upset because he can't fix something. It's very real. The show does Magneto's ideology so well. Not to say that he is always right, or that he's even right in this episode, but the way he talks about his own beliefs is done incredibly well. The awkward energy in the room when Nur walks in front of all the X-Men is so perfect. They all look like they want to kill him right then and there, which they should. All of the bickering, again, is great. I love the messiness of the X-Men. I love them bickering at each other. It's great. They're a family. Families bicker. That's what they do. The way that this episode shows Magneto's reverence of Charles' dream that he grew into after being the leader of the X-Men and going through the Genosha Massacre is great. I really do love how this episode shows where Magneto has gone as a character. And Bishop at the end, I mean, Bishop will never not be cool. You can't make Bishop not cool. He's always one of the coolest X-Men, if you ask me. I really want to see more of him later in the season. You know, he gets a little shafted, especially in season 1, and I really do hope that we get more of him. Episode 4, Rise of Apocalypse Part 2. The conflict between Magneto and Bishop in this episode is great. I love the way they oppose each other. Bishop being a realist who just wants to get back to the future because he knows what's going to go on here, versus Magneto as this idealist now who believes that he can change the future. It's great. I love catty Magneto. God, Magneto is at his best when he's catty. I think about the scene from last season where he says, "But so many allow their leaders to be terrorists." Oh, he's so great. I love the idea of Rogue representing love in her talk with Ensaba Noor, and kind of, you know, what she's gone through, what she represents. It's great. Kind of the way that love can both strengthen you and corrupt you. It's amazing. I'll never get tired of Rogue just flying in from off screen to hit somebody. It's perfect. It's evergreen. I love the way they present Apocalypse as this galactic type balancing force that the universe needs. So as everything that is created, Apocalypse is the end of all things as it needs to be. It's a very interesting way to position him. It's very funny that Ship is so nice even when being told to commit genocide. Like Ship's voice actress is just like so calm and clear and like nice to everybody. Like being like, "I'm sorry, I can't turn off the genocide ray." The Yamcha crater that Magneto gets, amazing. And finally at the end, Charles just going fully mask off and yelling at somebody is so overdue. One of my favorite things about Charles as a character is that he's not this amazing professor that a lot of X-Men media would have you presume. He is kind of an asshole. And so for him to finally be that asshole just so blatantly is something that I feel like is so overdue, and I want to see more of it. He is a flawed character just like any of his students, and that needs to be shown way more. And it's just some general thoughts about all 4 of these episodes. The costume design for each era is so good. I love the future outfits, how they have this kind of wasteland raider, you know, motif going on. And then in the present, all of these outfits that match the comics very well. Jubilee's outfit, Sunspot's outfit, those are great. And then even going back to the past, these old ancient Egypt garb that the X-Men are wearing fits so well. It truly is inspired how the future episode is all about the past and how we can't change it, and how much the past episodes are about the future and what's to come. The art design and animation continues to be absolutely gorgeous. I've mentioned the fire effects on Ascani, but also the way that the beam in episode 3 goes off. All of episode 4, just the animation and the art design is amazing. The characters continue to be so well and consistently written. I truly love these characters, and it's because they are so well fleshed out. While there are characters in the season so far that haven't gotten a lot of time to shine, I'm excited to see where they go forward, specifically Rogue. Rogue has done a lot with the little time she's had in the season, but I'm sure that she's going to get a lot more in the coming episodes. The show, again, just keeps coming up with creative ways to use powers, and I love that. Magneto always, gets his very standard stop a blade, but then you have things like Jubilee shooting off of her feet with her powers, just bombing the area around her. Yeah, truly amazing. And the themes of trust, teamwork, and the connection of past, present, and future in this show are great. I'm excited to see how that continues as we get back to everybody being together in the next couple episodes, presuming that that's where we're heading, is everybody coming back to the 90s. I want to see how that trust and teamwork is furthered, especially as it seems like Charles particularly is kind of at a breaking point. So who's going to have to step up and take his role now that I don't think he's going to be able to do that? Let's get right into episode 5, because I have a lot to say about this episode. Keen's brutal death sets the tone early for this episode and how incredibly gory and violent and over the top it's going to be. Sabretooth being the first to notice the bone claws is a really cool aspect of the relationship that he has with Wolverine. He really can't suss out what's going on with his runt. As a huge fan of the movie The Thing, I love this episode and all of the numerous homages that it makes to the movie, from the design of the Arctic base, the way Cornelius and other people transform into the Brood, the paranoia and distrust that Team X feels towards each other, unsure who might be the Thing, and of course the ship that was uncovered from the ice where the Brood were found. One of my favorite aspects of this episode is the connection between Lady Deathstrike and Morph. These are two people who have loved and perhaps still love Wolverine, having to understand that he cannot love them back, and that connection is really rich. I love how out of their depth Morph is in this mission. They got involved because of Wolverine, and yet they truly did not have any idea what they were signing up for. I think it's really interesting that Sabretooth mentions keeping up with technology right before the Danger episode. I wonder if that's going to be a key part of episode 6. One gripe I have, why did they waste Maggot on the Brood? I know they can bring people back, but holy shit, imagine introducing a character just to get fucking turned into an alien. God damn. As soon as Omega Red burst into the adamantium chamber rune in that final fight, all I could think is, wow, what a shit show for everyone involved. I love this idea that this is the real Wolverine, the crazed, animalistic, Brood-controlled version of him. I hope in the next couple episodes and seasons we get to see more of Wolverine struggling with who he really is, whether he really is this animalistic killer, or if he can be more than that. I really want to see that evolve. The Weapon X crew knowing Logan better than Morph thinks they do is such an inspired choice. Both Lady Deathstrike and Sabretooth knowing Logan's intentions way better than Morph could. And there is a bit of a denial sprinkled in there, but it is a really cool character dynamic between these three. Cyclops is the Morph transformation of all time. The way that he portrays Scott as this lover boy is so funny. You just know Ray Chase had such a great time in the booth for that one. The visual of Sabretooth all fucked up as he is here is so cool. Not something I really ever would have expected from the show. And I hope we get more. Morph feeling like they need to turn into Jean to get Logan's attention really mirrors this compulsory femininity and the pressure non-binary people feel to perform one gender or the other. It's something that I, as a non-binary, gender-fluid person myself, really related to. I wonder if Omega Red will come back in the Colossus episode.
I ain't like you, Morph. Some of us gotta be one thing.
And you're only what? An animal with claws?
That's what I'm the best at being.
Logan saying this really feels like a commentary on compulsory heterosexuality. Logan believes he is better off being a killer, that it's easier that way, and that it's what he was born to be. Challenging that would be a long, stressful process, and he likely doesn't believe other people would accept him as anything else. This really does mirror what it can be like for a lot of queer people, whether they're bisexual, lesbian, gay, genderqueer, pansexual. This feeling that you need to be more straight or less feminine or less gay in order to fit in is something that I feel like a lot of people really relate to, and something that I hope we see explored a lot more.
Doesn't that make you sad? It makes me sad, Logan.
To paraphrase RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how can you love somebody else? This truly is a theme that I really hope we get to see more. These past couple episodes have been, pardon my French, queer as hell, and I really hope that we get to see that continue, because I do think that the X-Men work very well as a queer allegory. It's something that I've related to a lot this season and last season, and I'm really excited for where they take it. And that final shot of Logan staring back at himself in his claws as Morph finally stops watching him hits so hard. I'm really excited to see where their relationship goes from here. I hope it doesn't fizzle out and just go back to normal after one episode. I want to see this contention between them continue. Now let's move on to episode 6, Danger.exe. This first scene with Polaris is an incredible use of her powers. For such a seemingly simple power set, X-Men Media really manages to do the most with magnetism as a power. It's crazy how dedicated X-Factor is to protecting only humans, but I guess that'll happen when they're led by a human.
Terrorists, Dr. Cooper.
We have due process for terrorists.
After they commit terror.
Oh, she really is Magneto's daughter. Alex is such a fucking cornball. How do people follow him legitimately? Headmistress Storm. That's so cool. I really hope we get to see more of her doing her thing. This is an incredibly funny picture. Why is he doing the little fuckboy face?
When you and the X-Men were gone, there was nowhere for these kids to go. I told myself X-Factor was doing the right thing, getting them off the streets, but they weren't really any safer, just contained.
Ooh, you know what that's about, and if you don't, maybe read up on current events.
Sure you want you freshmen hanging out with the unstable school dropout?
Please. They met Wolverine.
Yeah, get his ass, Charles. After last week, he fucking deserves it. Bishop using Storm's lightning as defibrillators is such a cool concept. I really want to see more interplay with Bishop's abilities and other people's.
How many X-Men does it take to find an exit to their torture chamber?
Never change, Quentin. Please never change. There's so many young mutants in this show. I really hope they stick around, and if they do, it's giving me more and more hope every day that we'll finally get a Gen X episode. That's an awesome entrance for Danger. Very Magical Girl-esque, and I kind of love it. We're getting a Charles fight scene. I didn't think we were going to get a Charles fight scene.
Survival of the fittest.
Very interesting of her to have adopted the survival of the fittest moniker after going through Professor's memories of dealing with Apocalypse in the past.
You do not need to be controlled, Lorna. You never did. You just need to embrace all of who you are and unleash it.
This is such a beautiful little moment. It genuinely made me tear up. Again, with how much the show owes to queer culture, it's amazing to hear this, and it really does hit close to home. Oh, the Watchers in the sky. I don't like that. No, don't show me his face. I don't show me his face. I can't take it. I can't take it. No! Oh, Remy. Episode 7, Savage Lands, Savage Hearts.
I officially announce my candidacy for President of the United States.
President? With that voice? If humans can be terrorists, why can't mutants? Equal opportunity, baby. Equal opportunity. The way Creed's mouth wrap looks like a smirk here is quite devious. Like he's smiling under it. Maybe he is.
How can any of us know the desires of the dead?
Colossus, that's literally what your whole group is doing right now. I feel like while this episode is very much about Kurt dealing with faith and salvation, it could also have a secondary theme of hypocrisy. Feels like that happens a lot in this episode. The chemistry between Bishop and Polaris is electric. I am fully a Bishop-Polaris shipper now. What's their ship name? Bishop? I know it's kind of played out at this point, but I love the running gag of the X-Men not being able to use a plane without it getting blown up. It makes it way funnier that Cable and the X-Force are just able to fly a jet perfectly fine, but once you get like a good virtuous X-Man behind the wheel, they are just shit out of luck every time. My first thought upon seeing this sanctuary is, oh, this is 100% getting blown up. There's no way. Anytime you get a bunch of mutants in one place, it gets blown up.
But we have not had our day in court, have we?
This line reminds me a lot of this moment in an early episode of the original X-Men animated series.
My day in court, actually.
Whoever wrote Creed's dialogue in this episode has honed into the bigoted MAGA rhetoric so well, deflecting everything in this entirely self-centered ideology. It is uncanny. Uncanny. Kurt is so good at appealing to people and connecting with them. It's kind of a secondary superpower of his, I feel like. Something I really like about this episode is the dichotomy of Exodus, the person who uses religion to manipulate people to get what they want, versus Kurt, the person who actually believes what he preaches and wants to help everybody. Power signatures are so perfect in this show. They looked great when Ascani is using her power, when Cable's using his power, when Exodus and Kurt are using their powers, especially considering they are quite literally fire and brimstone. It's awesome.
A vain soul clamoring for his 15 minutes of faith.
Yeah, I mean, he got like 15 minutes of screen time max before getting shot. Rip, bozo.
You may not be a mutant, but But you are very much your parents' son.
Oh my god, that burn. This is the Kurt moment of all time. Val Cooper, go to hell right now challenge. Val, get off my screen. Anytime Val Cooper's on my screen, I'm seething. I am seething. Wait, he went rogue? And killed Apocalypse off screen? No way. Episode 8, The Dead Man's Hand. So does Rogue know at this point that Remy's alive? How does she know that he would be in this form? That's something I'm wondering. This poker scene at the beginning has big... I don't remember the Spider-Man game, but there's the one where he's playing poker with, like, the Punisher and Captain America, and I love that energy. Rogue being the only one that can stop Gambit because of her powers and her ability to sap the Horseman powers out of somebody is a really cool way to set up this conflict. Wait, what the fuck are Gambit's Horseman powers? Oh, he's death. Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. Very, very weird for Gambit to call the Thieves Guild home. I don't know that that is exactly something he would do, and it's making me start to wonder if this is even Gambit at all. I will say Gambit works really well as a villain. His energy is very menacing. He's like actually kind of terrifying in this episode. Oh my god, is Cable gonna talk about his feelings? Oh my god, he's talking about his feelings. Wow, big step up.
You know, life does flash before our eyes when we die. And when I died, all I saw was you.
I'm still not convinced, but this was heartbreaking. God damn, no hesitation to attack Kurt. I would have thought he would maybe at least take a minute to say something funny to him, but nope, he just shot him down. I will always love the way Cable looks using his power, that fucking Marvelverse Capcom explosion of power when he starts using his telekinesis. Amazing. Hunting me down? So now I'm really thinking Apocalypse is inside Gambit, because he wasn't hunting Gambit, he was hunting Apocalypse. Kendra seduced Apocalypse? How? This scene does not tell me how that happened. I need to see how that happened. This is the beautiful dark mirror of the ballroom scene with her finally getting to choose Gambit, but under maybe less than perfect circumstances. Okay, this should be a meme. Gambit pointing is peak meme material. I mean, look at this. Oh, Kurt is dangerous. Why doesn't he do this when he's actually fighting people? God damn. So many Charles fights this season. I'm kind of living for it. Charles needs to do more. He's always on his ass. Okay, that was, I'm sorry. Val Cooper, go fuck yourself challenge. Val Cooper, get off my screen challenge. Okay, I'm gonna make a prediction, right? Here's how I think the season's gonna end. Here's how I think episode 9 is gonna go down. Okay, Cable's gonna die. 100%. Cable's gonna die. He's gonna use his telekinesis. No. Telepathy to do some mind bullshit to Gambit, get Apocalypse out. He's going to go into Cable's mind, and then he's going to lose his shit, and people are going to kill Cable. And, you know, that's going to be the heartbreaking moment, is that Jean and Cyclops have to kill their own son. You know, the most X-Men thing I could think of. Val Cooper is going to be revealed to be Mystique, obviously. We're getting there. There's no way that an actual government person would be this fucking insane, right? This has to be Mystique. X-Factor's going to disband, and Multiple Man is going to open a private investigation agency called X Factor Investigations. Obviously, that's where I hope we're heading. Generation X is going to get a spinoff where they're going to announce it literally in 2 weeks at D23. There's a Generation X spinoff. I will be front and center. I love X-Men 97. Throughout the season, I've been talking about all the little things I love about each episode. And while I've had a lot of fun with season 2, this finale made me realize that there's also a lot of things I don't love about this season. And I feel like it's only fair to talk about the bad but the good, so we're going to talk about it. But first, let's start with the things I loved about the finale. The very amicable relationship that Beast has with Ship is kind of fun. I love the idea of a storyline where Beast creates some sort of AI or robot companion and then starts falling in love with it. It's kind of very Beast of him to do, and I don't know if that's something that's been done in the comics before, but if it hasn't, they should have an original episode where they have Beast create a robot and fall in love with it. I love the gorier moments in this season. Not that anything gets too crazy, but aspects like But moments like in episode 5, where Sabretooth gets completely shredded up, or Rogue's skin burning off as she gets closer to the Celestial Isan, are very cool, and I hope they lean more into that. I love the design of the area that Isan the Searcher Celestial remains in. It very much reminds me of the White Hot Room, and makes me hope that we'll see some sort of version of that in the future. I also think that the Celestial Rogue design is really cool, even if it is kind of a bit of a we have Wonder Woman at home design, but still very cool. Cable's Hyper Viper beam coming out is awesome. Super cool moment. The animation, as I've talked about before in the show, is just incredible. Everything from the Viper beam in this episode to the way that Apocalypse bursts out of Remy later in the episode is so well animated. Family Battle, I've been waiting for this. I knew we were going to get it at some point this season, and I'm so glad it's finally here. The Summers family stays messy and stays fighting, and it's my favorite thing about them. This episode in general has some pretty great matchups between Wolverine and Morph versus Archangel and Psylocke, Bishop, Polaris, and Gambit versus the X-Factor members, Jubilee versus Havoc as a great kind of thematic parallel between the two, and of course the Summers family battle are all great matchups. The show is great at pairing people up to fight each other. Especially in the X-Factor battle, Gambit charging the multiple man's multiples is incredibly cool. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that before, and I love it. And of course the pose that Gambit makes when he's dead is so funny to me. Another Gambit meme, I feel like. Very Yamcha Crater-esque. Alright, now let's talk about some of my issues with this episode specifically. This episode kind of makes Cable a little stupid. Like, why does Cable think that killing Gambit is going to kill Apocalypse? I understand, like, at a surface level that he's not thinking straight. This is his destiny after all, and he thinks that it's going to slip out of his fingers. But I feel like he, as a telepath, should know that the mindscape is not necessarily a prison. It's kind of just a holding zone. Like, he should know that when he shoots Gambit, it's just going to release Apocalypse. So, I mean, you know, that's something.
I thought the Charles Xavier that I believed in understood his dream was bigger than just one person.
Val, since when the fuck did you believe in Charles' ideas? We're told in season 1 that Val was an old friend of Xavier's, but she hasn't actually done a single thing to show that she believed in Xavier's ideas. If anything, we actively see her doing the exact opposite through season 1 and 2, both as a member of Operation Zero Tolerance, even if she didn't know what was going to happen in Genosha, and then afterwards in this season as a leader of the fascist X-Factor. She has this idea that she's doing what's best for mutants by saving them from themselves, which is very much not what Xavier's all about. I know that maybe it's a little cliche at this point, but it's kind of crazy that Cable knocks Scott's mask off and then it just, nothing happens. Like, I get that we're kind of at a point where he can just close his eyes, but it's a weird Chekhov's gun that didn't pay off, where you would think something would happen, but ultimately he just didn't need to because Cable destroyed the building anyway. Maybe one of the biggest problems with this episode is the sacrifice. Rogue ultimately gets powered up to do one thing, doesn't actually sacrifice anything of her own accord. She kind of gets her agency taken away from her by Nightcrawler choosing to sacrifice himself to save her. And it's this weird little chain where it's like I half expected that we were going to find out that Beast sacrificed himself to save Nightcrawler. Like, we could have just kept going down the chain of sacrificing to save other people. It kind of really cheapened the sacrifice that Rogue was gonna make. Like, obviously I didn't expect that Rogue was gonna die. That just was never gonna happen. And it was more of a twist, a big kind of reveal that Nightcrawler had sacrificed himself. But it really did cheapen the sacrifice Rogue had made to me. Like, ultimately, she didn't actually sacrifice herself to save Remy. It was Kurt, who is far less connected to Remy. Like, they could have a really close relationship given that they're kind of like brothers-in-law, but between the way that Gambit does not hesitate at all before taking Kurt out last episode, it just doesn't really feel like it is as meaningful as if Rogue did sacrifice herself to save Remy. And another thing that this episode made incredibly clear to me is that the X Factor characters don't really matter. They're not really characters. They're kind of just props to fight the X-Men. They're just action figures to be here. And this brings me to the thing this episode made clear to me about the season as a whole, that despite 8 episodes to build up to this grand showdown between X-Corps, X-Force, X-Factor, and Apocalypse, it still felt both like there was no real build-up to it, and that it was rushed to the finish. Like I said, X-Factor kind of don't do anything. Like, their members are not characters, outside of maybe Havoc, but I would argue he really is just paper thin as a character. He is one thing, and I'm not even counting Polaris because she was basically an X-Men the whole time. I mean, like, what does Strong Guy do from a character perspective in this season? Wolfsbane didn't even have, like, a line, I don't think. She has one fight in episode 2 where she doesn't even do anything. She just runs around. Siren gets brought in, and that wasn't even explained. That was from a comic. Like, they just shoved that off to the tie-in comic that most people watching the season, myself included, didn't even read, which, like, you shouldn't have to read a comic to understand what's happening in the show. And you don't have to understand, because, again, it doesn't really matter. Anybody could have been on X Factor, and it wouldn't have changed anything. X Factor probably could have been replaced by just the ONE goons that were there the whole time, and it still wouldn't have meant much. Like, they didn't do much with the idea that these were mutants chaining other mutants. It ultimately was just, there's a group chaining mutants and keeping them in cages, and the fact that it's other mutants didn't really come up that much. Speaking of ONE, that was kind of just out of nowhere. My first thought when I saw Val in this control room was, who the fuck are all these people? Where did they come from? And then you see on one of their ships or their warheads or whatever, you see ONE, and I'm like, what? ONE? The Office of National Emergency? Does she run ONE? We're introduced to Val in Season 1 as a United Nations liaison to the X-Men. Has she always been part of ONE? Did she just found ONE in this episode? How long has ONE been around? We didn't see them last season as far as I'm aware. Where did they get the Sentinels? There was no build-up to this. She spends this whole season kind of just making threats that feel incredibly empty, only for it to be revealed that she had a whole squad of Sentinels this whole time. Also, the first episode of last season starts with them defeating a Sentinel factory. Wouldn't they know that more Sentinels are being made? By the government, no less? Like, it just all feels completely out of nowhere that we have an ONE now, and we have Sentinels. Where did this come from? The whole ending truly does just feel completely rushed. Like, even if we put aside how this whole season kind of feels a little rushed, and like we had to cram so much into so little time, and that we didn't even cram in the things we really needed to make this ending work, just from when Apocalypse is defeated to the end of the episode, it feels like we just sped run all of the aftermath. I mean, there really is no aftermath. We don't spend any time on how the X-Men are moving forward from this. We just see vignettes of them living with no real emphasis on where they're going from here, how this all has affected them. The most we really see is that one scene of Remy and Rogue holding Kurt's Bible, but there's nothing to unpack there. And obviously we're going to get a Season 3 and a Season 4 to continue building on this, but it just leaves you feeling very unsatisfied that the whole thing was solved by Rogue getting a power-up for free, pretty much, that she didn't actually have to sacrifice anything for because Kurt was the one that made the sacrifice, therefore kind of ripping her agency away from her in the process. And then it's just, okay, I'm going to touch Apocalypse, which he didn't even put up a fight. Like, maybe you could say that it's the part of Gambit still in him that keeps him from being able to put up a fight, but that is not conveyed in any way. He just stands there while Rogue touches him. And, like, Apocalypse is also powered by celestial power. He was boosted by it. So he could have put up a fight. Like, the idea that Rogue, because she's celestial powered, would just overwhelm him immediately doesn't really work. So he just stands there. It's very fucking, what is it? Man of Steel, Jonathan Kent just making Superman stop and just accepting getting sucked up by a tornado. Like, why didn't he put up any fight at all? He didn't even, like, raise a hand. He just stood there while he got touched by Rogue. And there also just wasn't enough build-up to Kurt's sacrifice. It didn't end up feeling as meaningful as Gambit's sacrifice last season, or even Magneto's in episode 4. He, was barely a part of anything in season 1. And then in season 2, obviously he had episode 7, which was great, a very Kurt-focused episode, but ultimately having that one episode and then comforting Rogue in episode 8 just didn't build up enough tension, I feel like, to where I would really be that heartbroken by it. Especially because I just know it's not going to last. I mean, that is kind of a problem now that, and like, while I'm happy to have Gambit back, while I don't think that him being resurrected as a Horseman and ultimately saved by the X-Men cheapened his death specifically, it kind of does just make it feel like any death that happens from now on can just be undone. Which, that is kind of the nature of comic books. That happens all the time. It's just, when you're adapting things into new media, I feel like you get a chance to make more permanent decisions, because as long-lasting as I'm sure X-Men 97 is gonna be, it's definitely not going to reach the same limits as a comic that can run for 60 plus years. When your comic is running 60 plus years and is never going to have a definite end, bringing characters back kind of just makes sense, because eventually you're either going to run out of characters or you're going to end up with an entirely new cast that has no connection to what has happened before. And you can argue that that is what we should be going for. I am not even going to argue that that wouldn't be cool, but it's just not how comic books really work. And so I feel like with X-Men 97, which is probably going to get maybe 10 seasons max, you do have the ability to make a lot more permanent decisions, and it feels like they are afraid of that. And ultimately, I couldn't really believe that anyone we see die is going to stay dead. As meaningful as Magneto's death was to me earlier this season, I knew that he's not going to stay dead. I think it was even a theory that he could have just come back as an Apocalypse Horseman this season, and I wouldn't have even put it past them. I wouldn't have even, again, been mad about that. That is a big part of Apocalypse's character. It's kind of a cop-out way to bring people back in a somewhat logical way, but it does make it feel like I can't really take death as a permanent thing. Sacrifices feel meaningless unless in the event of Rogue doing it, where she's literally doing it because she loves Remy. Kurt, again, he was saving Rogue, but because of the transitive nature of the whole thing, he was saving Remy. And there's just not enough of a connection there emotionally between them for that to have as much meaning as Rogue giving her life to save her love. Anyway, that was a bit of a rant. That was the most ranting I think I've gotten on any of these videos. I'm just very underwhelmed by the way everything played out with the finale. They had so much time to build things up, and I feel like we're even doing a decent job. Like, throughout season 2, a lot of these episodes after, like episode 2, episodes 5, 6, 7, all worked very well as, like, standalone stories that also tied into the overarching narrative, much like the Claremont era, where every issue is its own thing that's still tied into a larger narrative. It worked very well for me, and I had a lot of fun with it. But now that we've reached the end of the season, it felt like none of those aspects actually melded together in a cohesive and satisfying way. And my last critique, the reveal at the very end, I predicted this last episode. Actually, if you go back and watch my last video, I did a little prediction segment at the end, and I think the only thing I got right was that Val would be revealed as Mystique. And it was a fine enough reveal, but I do wish that we would learn that she's Mystique at the same time the X-Men learn, which will probably be next season. Because now it's this kind of weird thing where it's like, we know, but they don't know. So when they find out, it's just not going to be as impactful as if we found out at the same time as them. That's kind of a personal grievance. I don't think that this was the worst reveal. I think that it still works. I just wish that we could be in their shoes and that reveal to the characters would be more meaningful. I'm honestly worried now that we're going to find out at the start of season 3 that they found out off panel, off the screen, that they just found out that Val was Mystique and we never saw it. But yeah, those are my big issues with season 2 and the finale. I still had a lot of fun with season 2. There were some high highs. I loved a lot of what they were doing. It really did, like I said, with episodes 2, episodes 5, 6, 7, which were all pretty standalone adventures. It was very fun. I really liked that. I mean, I do like a lot of the Claremont era comics I read. I like that idea of being able to tell a larger story, but also have each issue kind of be its own thing in one way or another. That worked really well for me. And, even episodes 1, 3, 4, and 8, which were part of this bigger story, those still worked for me a lot. I think that even though they didn't really spend all 8 episodes of the Apocalypse season building towards Apocalypse, those couple episodes, it was half of the season, a little over half of the season, that were dedicated to the Apocalypse story arc. I do still think that those worked pretty well. They just didn't pay it off very well. Like, at the very least, they could have had a fight between Apocalypse and the X-Men, but they fought Apocalypse before in the animated series, so I could get if they maybe just didn't want to retread that ground. But again, the whole season, they marketed it as the Apocalypse season, and ultimately a lot of it did not feel connected to Apocalypse, and the endgame especially did not feel like what they had been marketing and had been quote-unquote building up to. So yeah, I'm not gonna rate this season because I don't do that. I'm not a reviewer, I'm not a critic really, I'm just someone that likes talking about things I like. And I did like this season, I just wish it played out a little differently. But I'm excited to see where we go from here. The last couple seconds of the episode make it seem like we're going to be focusing maybe a bit more on some of the newer mutants, the New Mutants, Gen X, next season. I would love to see more of that. I can imagine that maybe it'll be kind of themed around one thing again, like this season was. And if it is, I don't even know. I'm trying to think like in time where we're going, because season 1 covered a lot of, late 90s, early 2000s. So did this one. Getting kind of, we're kind of at like new X-Men in the timeline, I feel like. And so I'm wondering if at some point in season 3 or 4, we're going to get towards a kind of House of M type storyline. I could see that happening. There are parts in the kind of end credit scene that make it seem like we're going to be getting a lot more of a traditional Brotherhood led by Mystique next season. And I think we saw Scarlet Witch in one of those papers. And so if we are finally bringing Scarlet Witch into the fray, I could see that leading towards a House of M scenario. Maybe season 3 ends with that restructuring, and then season 4 is a largely House of M reality until either at the end or halfway through, Wanda finds out the truth and does the classic No More Mutants. I could see that happening, and I think that would actually be a pretty decent direction to go, and it seems like with the timeline of where they're kind of adapting from, I think that that is on the horizon. So I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for the next 2 seasons. I think as a whole, I would say that I liked season 1 more than season 2 now. Season 2 had some great highs, but as an overall package, season 1 definitely flowed a lot better for me. But I do think Season 3 and Season 4, now that they're kind of under one unified vision, can truly blow it out of the water. But we'll see. Thank you all so much for watching. I just had a lot to say about the season as a whole and the finale, and I am so grateful that you listened to the whole thing. If you have seen all 4 episodes of this little series I've been doing, incredible. Amazing. I'm so glad you really stuck it out. What's going to happen going forward as a little sneak preview for you guys, I'm going to cut these 4 I Love X-Men 97 Season 2 videos into one big super cut so that, you know, if you like this series and you just want to put it on in the background while you're doing stuff, that'll all be in one video so you can just throw it on. I don't know how long that'll be, probably around 30 or 40 minutes, I would bet. So a nice little background noise video. I love videos like that while I'm working, to just listen to, have someone talking at me while I'm working. It helps me get into a zone, and I'm sure some of you will like that as well. After that, I'm going to get back to comics-related stuff. I really just, while X-Men 97 was going on, this was the main thing I've been thinking about, so it just made sense to me to talk about that and focus on that. I'm a little behind on comics, but I'm going to be getting caught up soon. I might do a little reading vlog of me just catching up on a bunch of comics and talking about them. And then after that, I've got a special video coming soon. I don't want to give too much away, but it'll be my first collaboration with another creator, and we're going to be debating something. We're going to be debating about 2 different books, and that's all I'll say about that, but that should hopefully be coming up in the next month. Until then, I'm going to try to get a video out a week, but I've recently started a new job, so I don't have as much time to make videos as I did before, but I'm still going to try to get at least one little video out a week, just talking about something I'm reading, something I like. And yeah, thank you again so much for watching. It means so much to me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.